Okay, I started recording. It's July 21st, 2021, SIG Node CI subgroup meeting. Welcome, everybody. Today, let's go through agenda first. Get bigger. First item.
Hello, this is me.
Yeah, okay, Peter.
Hey, so for a bit of context, we've been working on trying to add some pre-submit and release blocking jobs to cover some of the node conformance suite that isn't currently covered by the Docker Shimmer Containerd test, specifically for the systemd C group driver, and then also eventually C group v2. So I just wanted to go over kind of some goals that we have, and kind of see what people think about our plan. So I have this HackMD here. I'll put that in the notes as well. I don't have them loaded right now. Let me see. But basically our goals are to cover more of the C group coverage, like with the systemd driver, and then also C group v2, prevent some regressions due to the lack of pre-submit coverage, and also expand the number of CRI implementations that we're testing against, so we're not writing containerd specific code, especially as Docker Shim is, support is dropped for it. So the proposal is basically adding some periodic tests to node conformance that use C group v1 and the systemd C group driver to the SIG release master blocking test grid tab, so that SIG release uses that to inform blocking on or changes, and then after that add a pre-submit test for C group v1 once we verify that it has it's a fairly stable test to the pre-submits Kubernetes blocking test script tab, so that it blocks on PRs, and then eventually to do the same thing with C group v2, but only one C group v2 is a little bit fuller in support. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up and see what folks think, or if there's any issues with that.
And this is the same thing that Harshal brought up previously, Peter?
Yeah, pretty much there. Harshal has been also working through some of this, but we've had some confusion on like what the correct route is supposed to have been, and I think this document is just a little bit clearer about the sequence, and like before we were trying to get a periodic job to be release blocking, which is actually not even allowed. It doesn't even happen. So like this is,
or you're trying to make a PR job release blocking, which isn't allowed. Periodics are the only ones that can be release blocking. So
right, yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Cool. I mean, I'm in support of this. I think the plan is reasonable. Hopefully going to get some feedback from like non-Red Hatters.
I'm just curious, in this test, do you need any special environment or just like any regular environment to work?
So I know that, so there's sort of two things in flight. So one is that like Ben had asked us if maybe rather than adding a separate pre-submit job, if we could just modify the existing node E2E to add a bunch of cryo nodes. And so that might be something that we should look into rather than adding a separate job, just because I understand that there are some like cost things associated in terms of making like new jobs and possible flakes and that kind of thing. So that was one thing that was suggested. Another is that right now there basically isn't a process for, at least like from SIG testing's perspective, for turning a job into a blocking job. So Aaron has said he sort of wants to pilot a thing for 123 and like actually get some docs written and whatnot. And so this might be a good test case for that sort of work. If like, you know, we go through, we figure out the process and then we write it down and then everybody else knows what the expectations are. So I think that's the only other stuff maybe in flight here. For SIG release, I think it's a little bit similar. It's not super clear, but that would be, we need to work with SIG release for the release blocking ones.
Another thing that's worth mentioning on that point is like originally our plan was to use Cryo as like, you know, the rolling version of Cryo with Fedora CoreOS. The Fedora CoreOS, because it has like Fedora has like first class Tigger C2 support before other distributions did, even though Fedora CoreOS kind of lagged behind that. And then the rolling Cryo was like, it was, we were kind of like overloading the job to also, you know, catch regressions on both sides, like Kubernetes, like jobs and us. But we've since kind of backed off on the Cryo. So like, I think it has been suggested for us to pin the Cryo version so that we know that we're testing for the pre-submit, so that we know that we're testing.
Oh yeah, I think that was
that's the correct
I don't think it's necessarily as critical for pre-submit, although if it's a blocking pre-submit maybe, but all of the containerd jobs right now, they pin the version of Ubuntu and they pin the version of containerd. None of the Cryo tests do this. So like, at least from a SIG release perspective, if we want it to be release blocking, we can't have like upstream releases change out from underneath us. So we'd have to pin those and then start doing basically the bumps on a regular cycle in test infra. But I think that's like pretty straightforward. And that's one of those like sort of requirements that is like there, but very unstated. So that's the sort of thing that would be useful to have called out in some sort of documentation.
Yeah, and I saw this like bump PRs going out periodically, and I'm wondering, is there a robot for that or the person behind it? So maybe it's worth
I think some of them are both.
Finding out. Yeah.
Some of them are a robot, some of them are actually just people going and submitting. I think there's usually like a script or something like that that you can run at least, so it's not super painful.
Yeah, I think containerd is mostly DIMS.
Yeah. The other thing too is if you use like a single config in like one spot, then we just have to change that one config and all the jobs that reference that config automatically get updated. So.
Yeah, I think one comment here would be we need to have another DIMS, like DIMS for Cryo, so to watch these files.
Yeah, I think I was chatting with my team in a retro today, and we are hoping to allocate, like to write up an epic and have somebody specifically just driving down some of the tech debt upstream in terms of like upstream tests, because I think we've seen things are a lot better now than they were, say, like a year ago, but we still have a long way to go, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done in order to try to improve the signal that we're getting, especially like what's going on with the kubelet serial tests, where like in theory I think they're supposed to be release informing or something like that, but like they're so broken that like we can't get any signal out of them. So I think once we get those into like a better green, good maintained state, then I think we'll be on a better track for that.
We're also going to have me and a couple of other people dedicated to that soon for the foreseeable future.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah, I mean, in general, I don't have any concerns with adding more runtimes. Like 2 runtimes are better than 1. It validates like that we're doing the right thing.
Yeah, particularly with the missing systemd C group driver coverage, that's causing us all sorts of pain right now.
And I think the most questions will be from test sig. What, like, how to run it, like what kind of constraints and resources we may have, and like why we want to like combine them together. This kind of questions that I don't know whether we can answer in this group. But I think, I mean, I'm all for covering more CRIs. This will be great.
Awesome.
I also wonder, like, you remember this document that I brought last time that talks about CRI, like CRI conformance test result uploads. I wonder what was the plan then. Like, was the plan was to just make every runtime run node conformance tests and upload results? So like Kubernetes is not responsible for that. Yeah, it's very. I need to dig into history, like ask around, like what was the history, why, what was the idea behind it? Because now it seems like we put in more runtimes into Kubernetes CI, which is opposite direction than this document suggested.
I think we are now the ones at the helm of the ship, so we have the power.
Yeah, I mean, every time you don't want to make mistakes of the past, right? But it may well be that they suggest to do node conformance as part of like head of a runtime validation rather than like pinned version validation. Anyway, Francesca, you're up.
Yeah, that's me. So I added a few notes about what I'm about to explain about what this device plugin things is about. So let me start from the beginning. I'm going to talk for a little while, so just interrupt me if you have questions or anything. So right now in the end-to-end test for Node, of course, we have quite some tests which want to consume device manager, and this needs device plugins. So what is needed there is device manager, either to test device manager, but most likely to test other things which depend on device manager, like topology manager, pod resources, you name it. So we need some device plugins, and this actually started when writing the end-to-end test for the topology manager, and the decision kind of stuck. And the decision was like, hey, let's use real device plugin. Real device plugin mean not mock, not fake them, a real component, a real pod. So the easiest device to grab was SRV devices, and then we started using SRV devices, and we kept the habit, and now we have this bunch of tests which want to use SRV devices. But again, we really need a device plugin. SRV devices is just the easiest to get. Unfortunately, in our CI, we don't have any machine, to my knowledge, which exposes server devices. So the server device plugin is started and does nothing. And a bunch of tests skips, which is something we don't like. We want to have better signal, I believe. So the real question is, what do we do about that? Meaning, we keep it this way, we revisit this decision, or maybe it was for example, the sample device plugin is good enough. I just don't know. I just feel it's time to ask this question, because more and more tests are coming, and a bunch of them are skipping. So it's time to discuss again this state of things. So again, few options are: do nothing, use a sample device plugin, or do we want like more real thing, like we can make changes? Well, this is far-fetched, but still, the server device plugin can be announced in some far future, but still, to fake the device. So the selling point is you consume a real device. It's not like a device plugin, sorry. It's not like a sample plugin. So the distinction I'm trying to make is fully fake, fully testing device plugin, or real device plugin, but with, let's say, with fake data. So you see, it's a layer of faking. Or we just need real things. So maybe, for example, use GPUs, because we have a machine which exposes GPUs, or even bump the spec of the SI machine. I expect not, but still I'm mentioning for the completeness sake. So wrapping up, we need device plugin. What do we do about that? Do we have any option in this group? I'm going to raise this point to the larger SIG Node team, but I wanted to talk with you folks first. Thanks.
We should be able to use like GPU nodes for that fairly easily if it's just something we'd manually trigger on PRs of the touch devices?
Right now, we will need a bunch of fixes to some test to actually consume the GPUs, because yeah, the survey we explicitly trigger the survey device plugin. That said, I don't know. I just don't know how much we can use the GPU stuff. It's something I was exploring, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think for this GPU it will be mostly cost,
Mhm.
how much we can afford.
As far as I know, in GKE, in GCP, that's probably the only option we really have, though.
So I mean, options for like faking something. Like I see this like sample plugin and fake 3.0 devices.
Sure.
But I mean, yeah, that's probably true.
But fake devices are less confidence inspiring than.
Yeah, I guess my worry would be if we used a real device and then we fix things to fix things for that device. Well, first of all, there's a cost associated, but then second, who knows if we end up just, sort of writing tests to those devices and miss other potential use cases. I would say this might be a good question for SIG testing because they're the ones who can tell us, like, you can use these things or you can't use these things in terms of our infrastructure.
Like, I think we are testing like device plugins, like device manager. It doesn't test device plugins, so for you it shouldn't be important. What really is laying under the device plugin. I think again, like you want to test the device manager is working correctly from the topology manager perspective, from the like get topology hints perspective and stuff like this. I don't think that we are really testing like every device plugin, so it should not be a problem.
I agree with you. The only point that I think is relevant here is that, for example, the SRV device plugin or the GPU plugin, for what matters, is actively developed, so it's trustworthy. On the other end, if we use like a fake device plugin and you hit a bug, is it because the device plugin, the fake device plugin is out of date, or is it a real bug? So you have another layer of uncertainty. On the other end, if you consume a real device plugin, something people deploy in their cluster, you can trust this part and okay, I'm going to check the device plugin last because I'm pretty confident it's doing the correct thing. So this is the only thing why I think we benefit from real device plugin and not say fake device plugin custom built.
Part of this is also if we're testing like GPU plugins for whatever, like that is something that people probably reasonably assume just works when they upgrade their cluster. If someone is deploying some other weird device, like if they care about it working, they're probably doing a lot more preemptive testing before upgrading clusters and can report stuff that way. Like having good solid testing for 99% of use cases seems pretty good. Fake device plugins just always end up causing issues long term.
Yeah.
They did for us in Nomad quite a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
Mostly devices are cursed and kernels are cursed. And container runtimes are cursed.
Why did we
I'm just
choose
gonna-
sand to think?
Have you looked at how many tests we need to run? Like how many tests do we have now?
In the resource manager, I don't have an number, but I can fetch it. I can think.
Yeah, maybe
about...
like number and time of execution would be something that we can that
Okay.
tested SIG may ask for.
Yes, point taken.
I mean, if
I
we
will.
go in with GPUs, and like it will be useful to calculate the cost.
Just a note. I'm not. While it will be still a net benefit, I'm not sure that GPUs are actually more widespread than SRV, because it's a very specific workload. SRV is more high performance network. But yeah, the point still totally makes sense. So yeah, I will get the numbers and prepare the numbers. Okay. So I guess we need to bring this conversation to involve other SIGs in this conversation. That's the takeaway.
So you don't like to run with GPUs? Is that what I hear? Like, I mean, it's better than fake, but you still want a SRV.
No. I don't really. Well, I care about the SRV, but from project perspective, GPUs is totally better than what we have now. So, and that means we could have a separate test suite. So GPUs are okay from that perspective. Okay, I guess, yeah. Okay, that's an improvement from my perspective.
Yeah, I think if we can, I mean, it may not be part of every pre-submit. We can just have it like explicitly called. But yeah, I mean, I think it's if it's a reasonable amount of tests, maybe just go with GPUs. Would be easier.
Okay, I'll prepare the numbers and okay, cool. Action item on me, great.
And yeah, again, it will be test infra, test SIG who will
Okay.
make some decisions here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, you up?
Okay, this item is already solved. I'll just go quickly through it just to give the context. Basically, the sig-scheduling test is marked as conformance test. However, it does not respect two of the requirements. But I realized that Paco is already working on demoting this test. So I'm just going to wait for that to roll out to send my change. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so you discovered this sig-scheduling test and okay. So you have another PR that's fixing it, right?
Paco has a
there's
PR,
a PR
which I put in the list. I don't know if that's the same PR as linked above.
Yeah, that should be it. Yeah, that's basically the motion of the test.
I had some questions about this, so I don't know if they have been answered. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, actually, this is this sort of goes into some of the burn down stuff. This one I think is marked as part of the 122 milestone, and I think that we should, as a group today, try to go through everything and make a call if it's in or out. Because there's some stuff in here I think is just not going to get done, and I think that's okay.
It's a good thing that it's this agenda item now. So do you want to go through the list?
Yeah, this will be great. Yeah, we can just go through them all.
But I don't have milestone permission, so you will need to be typing in the background somehow.
Yeah, that's fine. Works for me. So this definitely we need to get fixed because there's a release blocker regression. So I don't think there's any discussion on this one. I think we're just waiting on Dims and Ellen to take a look.
I took a look at the failing tests earlier. It doesn't seem like anything's new.
Yeah, this is part of our signal is completely busted, so we don't just get greens. We have to go out and look at every single failure.
But yeah, like I went through, I think 2 of the failing serial jobs, and there was nothing that I didn't expect to fail in there. So I think that's about ready for at least an LGTM.
Feel free to LGTM it. It'll need a depths approver.
I can hassle Dims.
So it sounds like that one's under control. This one is very new. Michelle, this is the one that I mentioned. Michelle was poking me about right when this meeting was starting. So I haven't had a chance to look at this one, but I think this one is legit. Has to do with Clayton's refactor possibly. So somebody needs to dig into this a little bit more today.
I think it's 6 storage to accept triage.
Yeah, they're going to have to do that. It's technically their bug, but they are pulling us into it. So I labeled it a SIG node just to make sure that we were looking at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pod lifecycle is hard.
Yeah. I think that this one we don't need anymore. I don't know, because we merged something that fixed the actual failing test. So it's unclear to me what we need this one for. But it also, well, at some point I got an LGTM and an approve. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with this one. Because it's like a test refactor and it's kind of late in the cycle.
Yeah, I don't think this needs to make it in 122.
Okay,
like it's
I'll
ready
pull
to
the milestone.
go. It just doesn't seem
Let me
like
pick that one up.
necessary.
That's what I thought too. So I think we can pull the milestone from that one. And I will do that now. But I wanted to make sure that I wasn't doing it unilaterally and was getting other people's feedback first.
What's the latest on this one?
That's the run C bump. So
Okay.
So this one would be superseded by the run C bump one, I think. So I think I can clear the milestone from this one in favor of the depth change.
Yeah, that's superseded by Brunsey.
You have a link, right, Lana?
I will clear the milestone.
Yeah. Okay, this. I know how. I don't think this is critical. Just something that not conformance that is not conformance.
Yeah, I don't think that one's release critical. I mean, well, I guess here's the problem. If something is failing the conformance test, it means that it's not Kubernetes conformant. But this is like a non-trivial change this late in the cycle, and it will need a conformance reviewer / approver to look at it. So maybe what we should do is we should ask for feedback. I know from the
I
node
think
side.
simpler PR just to remove, like, instead of conforms to Ginka, it will be, we can take it in the milestone.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes sense. Mike, do you maybe want to do that? Because I know that you've been looking at this one. I think all we really need to do is remove this one from the conformance suite.
Yeah, I think I can do that. I'll work in a separate PR.
Yeah, just send it a sub so we can take it in the milestone.
Sure, definitely. It's M Miranda 96. Yeah, it's different. With double M.
Okay.
Otherwise, I can copy myself. Don't worry.
Okay, so we'll do. Yeah, I pinged David on that. He said that he needs more time to investigate. It's not that easy to reproduce.
Yeah, I added a
it's
comment to
critical.
that one.
It's not a regression.
I think none of these are regressions. So that's maybe something to keep in mind. I don't know. So this one in particular, I'm worried about just because I'm seeing it flaking so much. And I think I've also been seeing bug reports of it, but since it's not a regression, I don't think it's release critical. Like, I think we can get away with not fixing this. I would almost be tempted to punt every single one of our flakes at this point, because we're like 2 weeks out basically from release. I don't know. Like, if we manage to fix one, that would be fine. It's weird. The freeze is so long. I would expect like us to be cutting a release next week, but we're not.
We can always backport.
Yeah, that's what my thought is. We can always, once we get these stuff fixed, backport. None of these are regressions, so I don't think any of them should be blocking the release. So
yeah. It's flaked, it's always hard because you need time to validate that it's not flaking anymore.
Yeah. I think maybe what we should do is, Sergey, for all of these flakes, we should comment that like they're not regressions. They continue to be on our roadmap. They shouldn't block the release, but we'll leave them in the milestone. And SIG release can pull them from the milestone as they wish.
Managers.
This one I have tried for a week to get somebody to tell me if this is release critical or not. I don't think it is. Like from the node perspective, it's not release critical. I don't know if it is from the working group logging perspective. So it's basically up to them. We could probably remove SIG Node from this one. I guess technically it touches the kubelet.
I don't see kubelet here.
Yeah,
it's APIs, yeah.
Basically, I guess the structured logging does not actually start immediately on the kubelet, like it only kicks in later, and so somebody's trying to fix that.
That is like the tiniest of tiny net fixes.
Yeah, I really don't think it's release blocking, and also like structured logging is still in alpha. It's not in beta as far as I know. But structured logging needs to make the call on this one. It's not us. Because yeah, from our perspective, this is not in any way, shape, or form release blocking. It's a bit.
Yeah, our favorite startup probe. Did we merge the PR? It was
No, Matisse is on vacation, so
yeah.
I don't know if he managed to. I think there's a
so
there's a
there's
PR
one
to
PR.
increase the duration. Oh, but it's got a hold on it, so I'm not sure if it's changed since. Oh, it has changed since. So maybe we should take a look at that one.
Yeah, I think that's what we discussed at HackMD, and supposed to be helping.
Am I assigned to this one? Oh, I am. Okay, I'll take a look at this one.
And you have milestone permissions, right? So
Yes.
maybe we can take it. It
The
definitely
magic
wouldn't
of,
make things worse.
Yeah, I don't. Well, technically, I guess it could make things worse, but we can always refer to it. It's very small, so.
Okay, I'll put the same comment that it's not a regression.
Yeah, sounds good.
It's not a regression because we did the change in 120, I think. Yeah. We're fighting this flake for a release. Can you imagine? Sounds like a fish is in our end-to-end tests around the timing.
I just think that this test wasn't written very well, and that's part of like I had this. I was inspired by seeing these flakes that when I went and added the end-to-ends for the termination grace period, I was like, I'm gonna run these things like locally like 200 times and see how often it flakes, and I'm gonna get it down to no flakes. And I managed to do it, but it was not easy. So.
Yeah, I think Matthias did the same on his test, and he said that it's really hard to reproduce.
Yeah, it is really hard to reproduce.
This is the problem with a lot of the kubelet tests. Like trying to find the eviction bugs. Like I've been bisecting the code base, and like one time out of like 3, it'll fail for some like random reason, or the kubelet will fail to like start, or like.
It's because it's all super racy. Like that's
yes.
The kubelet is literally written as one giant race condition, and we can't use fake clocks because there's no coordination. So it's not great. If we end up rewriting the kubelet, it's something we could fix in the architecture of kubelet 2.0. But like barring that, it's just a fundamental architecture problem.
The kubelet is like 3 really fancy bash scripts. that communicate via etcd.
In a loop.
Yeah.
It's kind of true. But I mean, you're saying if we ever rewrite kubelet, I think whatever you write, you will make it to end up with the same, pretty much the same state, unless we like design it as a state machine. It's like pages of documentation. Yeah. Okay. Maybe one day. So this is what we just discussed, right? Okay, it's still in milestone.
Yeah, I'll go and read the actual thresholds.
Mhm.
This one, I don't think it's flaking as much. Artyom, have you?
Yeah, and later that the can't like yeah, Artyom just removing it from. So maybe you need to apply milestone here and take it because this is straightforward. Send in the chat.
Yes, that makes sense. I can take a look at that. I don't think I have approver. I don't think we need milestone for test infra PRs.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I can ask Don to approve. Should be fine. Or Don may not have permission. I will.
No, Don
ask,
definitely does.
No, Don doesn't have test infra thing. I will go
I
with
know
he
the
that.
does.
Dims. I know the Dims.
Dims
has
will, yeah.
permissions.
And Mrunal recently got it added.
Okay, and last one. Yeah, nothing to do with us. I mean, very little to do with us.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that one got. I saw some PRs for it for like.
I think they
Node
want to remove it from milestone now.
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
It's too
But I
late
think
in the
most of
cycle.
those PRs all merged, so I'm really not sure what's going on with it.
Yep. Yeah, it looks like it. So maybe these two places. Master token. Okay, we're done with this item. We went through everything.
Great job, team.
And yeah, last one I wanted to highlight this perf degradation. Run C bump fixed a little bit of degradation between 121 and 120. So we used to see 25% increase on CPU. Now we see on the tests 10-15% of degradation, same CPU and memory. And I haven't run any perf dumps yet. So something that I may need to do in future, or if somebody want to take a look and see the same degradation, please feel welcome to.
I wrote a how-to in the latest comment. So if you've never done this before, this is how I figured out how to do it in order to like debug what was going on when we had the 25% performance degradation.
Yeah, interesting thing that degradation is higher on bigger number of pods. So you need to run some tests with a high number of pods to discover that.
That also makes it a lot easier to figure out what it is, at least.
Perhaps, yeah.
Yeah, so the commands that I wrote there, presumably you'll need to like proxy to the cluster unless you're running it locally, in which case you are a wizard. I have not been able to figure out how to do that very well. And then you can use this magical Go pprof tool. If you pass the -http flag, it will give you an interactive browser. It'll launch on the port that you specify. So in this case, I said like localhost 8888 or something like that. And then you just give it the binary you want to profile and the endpoint with the pprof, and it will go. And I strongly suggest, like, the default is 60 seconds. It's not a long enough sample to figure out kubelet performance degradation. So the command that I put in there has an 1800 second window, which is 30 minutes. So you'll have to sit there and let it run. Like go and run some end-to-end tests, fire up a bunch of pods on the kubelet or whatever. But then you'll get a bunch of data. And if you do this on a 120 cluster, 121 cluster, then you can look at the flame graphs. And I have linked some screenshots of like what those look like in the comment on that Bugzilla. And basically wide is bad. Yeah, if you click on the attachment there.
Do you know if it reproduces on containerd clusters as well as cryo clusters?
It should if it's a runc thing, but yes, it definitely does because the scalability tests run with containerd, and we are seeing the regression in the upstream scalability tests. So we saw it on
Sweet.
both cryo and containerd. Yeah, if you go and look at the pictures, if they launched Sergey, they weren't in your browser, so we couldn't see them.
Yeah, it was in my download folder. I mean, everybody can make an exercise of going and clicking this link.
That's why I use Firefox. It'll show you inline images instead of just download.
Firefox.
But yeah, basically you will see tall on the flame chart means that there are a lot of nested calls. Wide means lots of CPU time. So the wide bars are like, I don't know, this is, I got to learn all of this when I was debugging this the last time, and there's not a lot of great resources on how to read flame graphs. So basically, like low-hanging fruit is like when the calls are very wide, that tells you that a lot of CPU time is being spent there.
If someone gets to it before me or someone wants to learn pprof, I am willing to help people because pprof is my favorite.
Okay, maybe we'll use the offer. Okay, so we out of agenda items, and we at 46 minutes. We have a little bit of time to look at triage board, but I don't think there is anything too notable here. So yeah, I was surprised by this cherry pick. Are we already closing master? Like opening it back for non-22 work?
I don't think that we should take the cherry pick yet until we unless there's a job that's definitely failing.
I see. Okay, needs reviewer and have assignee no. Yeah, this is interesting. Somebody made some analysis, and I don't know whether tests are actually failing, but there are some races that were fixed. Yeah. Does anybody want to take a look? It's a unit test. Should be quite straightforward.
Yes, I can take a look.
Thank you. Okay. So one thing we can start doing is to looking at issues that are not assigned to anybody. I think they are all assigned. So now look at issues that new issues in to do. Close all the tabs. Deprecate resource usage tracking test. Oh, it's very old.
Yeah, a bunch of these backlog issues are like super old. Anything from Yuju is probably from
Oh yeah,
2016.
SOC tests. Yeah, I remember commenting on that. No. Yeah, this is interesting. I found a blog post about this dashboard. It was introduced in 1.10 or something, and now it's not working. So that is interesting dashboard. If only it had data. Does anybody know the history of this?
I think we should just get rid of it. I have no idea what the history is. I think that at some point we used to use this, but now SIG scalability. So we didn't used to have kubelet stats in the SIG scalability dashboard. Now we do, so we could probably just get rid of this thing, but I have no idea who or what runs this. Clearly there's no data populating it, so.
Yep. So maybe we need to close this one as well. Let me take a look at this. Maybe I will just close it. Okay. End-to-end node flags organization. Oh yeah, this is what I'm working on with node conformance. I have an action item from last week. I had this document last week, and I didn't update it to send to conformance and SIG Node people, so I will do it. Now I'll take this one as well. Validate not allocatable files on systemd. Is it something that CryoJob caught? Or it's a failure of is a problem with the job itself?
I have not seen this one.
Is it still failing?
You
Probably.
can assign this to me, though. I can look at it.
Herr Commander?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Volume relabeling. This is storage. Somebody marked this as a node. Oh, node in storage.
We should remove critical urgent because that was in 2019 and it hasn't gone anywhere.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's actually still, it was created like 2019. It was looked at quite recently. Okay. Anybody wants to take a look, or we need to ping SIG storage?
I think that's SIG Storage's problem.
Like C Linux relabeling, so I'm sure if it's totally SIG storage. So
Yeah, there's probably some shared responsibility there.
I mean, we don't have to assign anybody. If nobody wants to take it, let's keep it because everybody has hands full. Eviction tests are failing. And I hear eviction test, I think Daniela.
Yeah, feel free to assign me to that one.
I think Odin already like prepared some pull request, like you can see under the latest comment. It's regarding the number of open files. So if it's still failing, probably it did not fix it.
So eviction tests were failing for a few different reasons. One was the file handlers issue. The other one was an actual bug as part of the lifecycle refactoring. They're both now merged. There's a bunch still failing for, as of yet, unknown issues, because I'm planning on looking at them tomorrow.
Is it you? Endocrimes?
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you. And last one. Yeah, this is Porter David, right? It's the same stats API. Oh, no, it's not stats, it's Summary API. Okay, I'll ask David to take a look if he has time. Okay. Great. And we only have 5 minutes left. Good thing, Lana, you reminded about this performance that we now has. I just want to, I added the link into triage section of the document. So now you can look at performance dashboard.
Ooh.
And no degradation here. And you can even look at 120 now. There's only a few test runs, but at least something to compare with. So this introduction of this 120 chart helped me compare 120 and 121 in this environment. I mean, we have some tests internally, but they only run on very late stage. So yeah, we can compare these results.
Yeah, I'm really glad that Antonio added the support for this because previously it was just like, well, we've got this upstream and OpenShift sort of, but I can't really help with downstream tests because kubelet was missing.
Yeah. Would be nice to see some updates here. Okay, maybe we can work on performance someday. Okay, thank you, everybody. Any other topics? We have 3 more minutes. Okay, thanks. Have a good Wednesday and good week.
Thank you, folks. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey.
See you next week.